Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, everyone. So, all right, something is coming now. All right. Hare Krishna. So, welcome everyone, and sorry for the delay. There were some issues with our Zoom account because of which we couldn't start in time. So, we'll just start now. You want to just fix the camera properly? All right. We need a stand, something to see it. So we'll start our session. We'll delay it by 15 minutes. So we'll still try to complete our discussion maybe by either 50 or 55 minutes. And if time permits, we can take some question answers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayat Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Nashtaki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaye Namo Namaha. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatai Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Go Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna everyone. So thank you for joining in. So today we'll begin our discussion from the 11th chapter of first canto Srimad Bhagavatam. So let's start with the presentation. Okay. I hope all of you are able to see the presentation. Thank you. So chapter 11. After describing Krishna leaving Hastinapur, now Sutta Goswami will describe Krishna entering Dwarka. As all of you may remember, we are already discussed this. I believe I made this point in the 9th chapter of the first canto, that actually the questions asked by the sages of Naimisharani are a little different than what is the discussion going on right now. I would not say a little different. Of course, they had asked that whatever you know about Krishna, do tell. But the main questions were asked about was Vyasadev, how did he got the inspiration to compile Srimad Bhagavatam? Then the next question was about Sukdev Goswami, his activities and how did he meet Parikshit Maharaj? And the third question was about Parikshit Maharaj's birth and his activities. So when he began to answer, after answering the Vyasadev, about Vyasadev, how did he got inspiration? Then when he began to answer about Parikshit Maharaj, how Parikshit Maharaj, in what situation he appeared. So you remember, the discussion was from the 18th, the last day of the war, the night. And then after describing that, how Lord Shri Krishna protected Parikshit in the womb of Uttara. Then from then onwards, Sutta Goswami went into a kind of an absorption about Lord Shri Krishna, where he began to describe exclusively about Lord Shri Krishna. he ideally should have spoken what happened after Krishna saved Parikshit Maharaj, and the story of Parikshit Maharaj should have continued, because that was a question. But Sutta Goswami, being absorbed, thinking about Lord Shri Krishna's Leelas, he began to speak about Mother Kunti's prayers. And then Yudhishthira Maharaj coming and requesting Lord Shri Krishna to stay back. And then the whole chapter about Bhishma Deva's departure, where again Lord Shri Krishna was glorified. That's how this whole subject matter have developed. And finally, after Bhishma Deva's departure, when Yudhishthira Maharaj was convinced to become a king, then the 10th chapter we saw that how everything has been settled, and Lord Shri Krishna took permission from Yudhishthira Maharaj to finally depart from Hastinapur to reach Dwarka. So the 10th chapter was all about Yudhishthira Maharaj giving permission to Lord Shri Krishna, and Lord Shri Krishna departing from Hastinapur. Now, if in case if somebody asks me a question, let's say again in context of Parikshit Maharaj, then there is no purpose for me to go into the details, to dedicate 2 chapters talking about how Lord Shri Krishna departed and how Lord Shri Krishna arrived. So as you all read in the previous chapter, there was a discussion about Lord Shri Krishna's departure and his reciprocation with every devotee there. Then there was a discussion about the ladies of Hastinapur climbing up the terrace and glorifying Lord Shri Krishna, and then Lord Shri Krishna's departure, how he traveled to Dwarka was described. And now in this chapter, again, the same discussion continues, where in this chapter, when Lord Shri Krishna reached the city of Dwarka, what happened? Then when he entered the city of Dwarka, what happened? And finally, when Krishna entered his palace and got to meet his relatives, then what happened is what all is described. So 11th chapter will discuss on these 3 aspects: Lord Shri Krishna reaching the gates of Dwarka, entering Dwarka, so which means meeting the residents of Dwarka, and the third, meeting the his relatives, his wives, his sons, family members, which means entering the palace. And like this, 11th chapter will be discussed, and when 11th chapter ends, and then the 12th chapter begins, then Shaunaka Rishis remind Sutta Goswami what happened to Parikshit Maharaj when he was saved in the womb of Uttara. What happened next? So after this, Sutta Goswami stops speaking. So then Shaunaka Rishi reminds him. So let's begin with our discussion for this chapter. Let's quickly take a look on the main contents of this chapter. So as I said, Dwarkavasis receives Krishna. Then there's a description about Dwarka city. How was it decorated to receive and welcome Krishna? So let's begin with the discussion. Then we'll take a look at it. So the first, there are 4 or 5 sections we can say in this chapter. To begin first with, Dwarkavasis receive Krishna from verse number 1 to verse number 10. So we'll pause the screen here. We'll not show the slide deck now. So in case if you have the book with you, it'll be nice. If not, then let me open the Veda base at my end so we can see that. So you'll have to give me a little time today because I'll have to manage the Veda base. So I'll read out the quick translations and we'll highlight some purpose. Now, because this is happening live on YouTube rather than Zoom, so I guess I'll have to read out everything. I thought we'll have some interactions, which we cannot have today. Anyway, so chapter 11, text number 1, Sutta Vacha, where Sutta Goswami says, what does he say? Veda base? Okay. So this is what Sutta Goswami says, reading out the translation. Upon reaching the border of his most prosperous metropolis, known as the country of Anarthas, Dwarka, the Lord sounded his auspicious conch shell, heralding his arrival and apparently pacifying the dejection of the inhabitants. Srila Prabhupada writes a very beautiful purport. So Sutta Goswami says, Lord Shri Krishna have reached the gates of Dwarka. And after reaching there, Lord Shri Krishna, what did he do? He blew his conch shell. So Prabhupada in the purport writes, I'll highlight this section. So the heralding sound of the auspicious conch shell was very encouraging. Because what happened when Lord Shri Krishna sounded his conch shell? It announced Krishna's arrival and it pacified the dejection of the inhabitants. We'll speak about this point. So Prabhupada writes in the purport, because when Krishna blew his conch shell, everyone understood who has arrived. So interestingly, Kshatriyas, when they would arrive, they would make their announcement by not sending a WhatsApp or Facebook update, but by blowing a conch. And every Kshatriya had a particular conch which will produce a particular kind of a sound. We read in the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita where we saw that there was a particular sound of Bhima's conch, Arjuna's conch, Yudhishthira's conch, and even Lord Shri Krishna's conch. So as soon as the residents of Dwarka, heard the conch shell of Lord Shri Krishna, they became extremely eager to see the Lord, and all of them became alert to receive him in the befitting manner. And these are the signs of spontaneous love of Godhead. So what happened? Let's see ahead. In text number 2, I will not read the shlokas today because we are running late of time. Text number 2, Sutta Goswami mentions, and something very interesting. The white and the fat bowled conch shell, being gripped by the hand of Lord Shri Krishna, sounded by him, appeared to be reddened by the touch of his transcendental lips. It seemed that a white swan was playing in the stems of a red lotus flower. So Acharyas, while describing this verse, now why Sutta Goswami is going more in details of the conch shell? If you notice here, what Sutta Goswami is saying, when Lord Shri Krishna touched the tip of the conch shell with his lips, the tip of the conch shell also became red. So one quick answer would be, oh, looks like Lord Shri Krishna had put lipstick, right? When you have lipstick on and when you touch something with your lips, then the lipstick goes there. Well, that was not the case with Lord Shri Krishna. This was not a case of an artificial lipstick like that. So why Sutta Goswami is mentioning this? Why is he describing this? The Acharyas explain the connection between spiritual and material. Anything material where the conch is compared to a material thing, when it comes in contact with spiritual, which means Krishna, it also becomes spiritualized. Similarly, when a living entity like us, when we take to spiritual culture, when we take to spiritual practice, like the chanting of the holy names of the Lord, the worship of the Lord, honoring food, offering food to the Lord and accepting it as prasadam, everything becomes spiritual. And like that, by coming in constant touch with the Lord, we reduce our material inability or intoxication. Therefore, Prabhupada writes in the purport, I'll highlight again here, from here. Is it possible to have another mic so some devotees from here can read? If in case possible, otherwise I'll read out. So Prabhupada writes in the purport, by ardent love and devotional service to the Lord, in other words, by spiritual contact with the Lord, everything becomes spiritually reddened, like the conch shell in the grip of the Lord. And the Paramahamsa, the supremely intelligent person, plays the part of the ducking swan in the water of spiritual bliss, eternally decorated by the lotus flower of the lotus feet. To give you some more explanation for this, today morning in Brahma Muhurta program, we were reading about the 7 benefits of chanting the holy names of the Lord, as described in the very first verse of Shastrakam. I'll not go much in details of it, but just to highlight some key points. So, what are the key 7 benefits of chanting Hare Krishna described in the very first verse of Shastrakam? The very first thing is Cheto Darpana Marjanam. The moment one begins to connect with the spiritual sound vibration, the holy names of the Lord, Cheto Darpana Marjanam, he begins to get purified of his material anarthas, or material anartha means material inability or intoxication, or the influences of the modes of material nature. As soon as he comes in contact with the spiritual sound vibration, that is chanting Hare Krishna. Then when he's on the process of becoming purified, then he develops knowledge of Krishna, realization of Krishna. To the degree he becomes purified, to the degree he develops realization, to the degree he experiences the spiritual bliss. Like that, this first verse of Shastrakam describes. So something like that is being mentioned here through this verse. As soon as the conch was touched with the lips of the Lord Shri Krishna, it also became reddened, which means became spiritual. Like that, our acharyas explain here, in this context of the verse. Similarly, when a jiva comes in contact with the Lord, he also becomes purified. So, what did the devotees do next? when they heard the blow of the conch shell, Lord Shri Krishna's conch, then what did they do next? That is described in the third verse. Translation: the citizens of Dwarka, having heard that sound which threatens fear personified in the material world, how did they respond to the sound vibration? They began to run towards him fast. This is not a mob fighting, huh? These days, a lot of mob fighting is happening. It's not another mob which is running to fight. No. They began to run. Just like an iron filing, when there is a magnet, automatically gets attracted. Similarly, the Dwarkavasis were like iron filling. When Lord Shri Krishna as a magnet arrived there, they naturally got attracted. Just to have a long desired audience with the Lord, who is the protector of all devotees. Again, a very, very important discussion in this. So it mentions the sound which threatens fear personified in the material world. In other words, this verse says, when one comes in contact with Lord Shri Krishna, or the spiritual sound vibration, which is not different than Lord Shri Krishna, the holy names of the Lord, then that person becomes freed from the material fear. Abhayam, he develops fearlessness. So therefore, Prabhupada in the purport writes, I'll read the last paragraph, very beautiful paragraph, over here. The sound of the Lord is identical with the Lord, as we have tried to explain by the non-dual position of the Lord. The material existence of our present status is full of fear. Full of fear, fear about our future existence, fear about today, fear about well-being, fear about my money, fear about my attachments, you name it. Now, if you think, if anyone says, oh, I'm not fearful, okay, let me make it more simpler. How many of you would raise your hand if I ask you a question that you experience anxieties? Please raise your hand. How many of you experience anxieties? Which means you're fearful. Anxiety is a subset of fear. So Hare Krishna. If you think I don't think about fear of life, but you're still fearful about the well-being. So that's the point. So the material existence is full of fear. Out of the four problems, Ahara, Nidra, Bhaya, Maithunam, the fear problem gives us more trouble than others. The most trouble giving is fear. We are always fearful due to our ignorance of the next problem. Just like, very interesting, the uncertainty creates the greatest fear, right or no? Did you experience or do you recall any recent incident where because of uncertainty, there was a mass scale hysteria of fear? Yes, what's the answer? Corona. Particularly in the first wave, right? Second wave, people were not so much fearful. They became fearful because there was a large scale death. But in the first Corona, there was hardly casualties. But people were so fearful as if, Yamaraji is standing outside their main door. Really? How many of you agree people were really fearful to open the main door and go out? Yes or no? Yes. I don't know what all of you are doing. How many of you were fearful even to go to the balcony? There was so much fear created because of uncertainty. COVID is in the air, COVID is here, COVID is there. Ito nasima, parato nasima, yato yato yami, tato nasima. Ito COVID, parato COVID, yato yato yami, tato COVID. That was a state of consciousness at that point in time. So fearful, that's the point. Thus, the fear problem is always prominent. Why? This is due to association with the illusory energy of the Lord known as Maya. Yet this fear is vanished as soon as the sound of the Lord, represented by His holy name, is sounded. So Prabhupada says, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, which is given to us by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Prabhupada concludes, we can take advantage of these sounds and be free from all threatening problems of material existence. So Lord Shri Krishna arrived at the gate of Dwarka. He blew his conch shell, which attracted the hearts of all the Dwarkavasis and also relieved them from all fear. That is what we have discussed so far. Let's go to text number 4. The citizen arrived before the Lord with their respective presentations, offering them to the fully satisfied and self-sufficient one, who by his own potency incessantly supplies others. These presentations were like the lamp offered during worship of the sun. Yet the citizens began to speak in ecstatic language, to receive the Lord just as wards welcome their guardian and father. Um, as I'm not going through Sanskrit today, so I don't know how much of you are able to really understand the translation because I'm not breaking the verses, but here I like to break the verse for a second. It is said, Tatra Panita Balayo. Thereupon they came in front of the Lord with their offerings. Ravera Deepam Ivadrataha. How their offerings are compared? Just like somebody showing the lamp to a sun. What is the value of the lamp in front of a sun? Similarly, what a living entity can actually give a gift to the Lord, who is the owner of everything. And then Krishna is described, Atmaramam Purnakamam. Atmaramam Purnakamam. His all desires are fulfilled. Atmarama means one who does not have any desires. So here, I'm going to raise two questions and probably discuss a little bit on it. The first question is, Lord Shri Krishna has been addressed here as Atmaramam, who is fully satisfied, does not have any desire. Then why did he do rasa dance? Then why did he had so many affairs? Parakya, Swakya, Rasa. Our acharyas have gone into details of this relationship between the queens of Dwarka as well as with the Vraj gopis. So why Lord Shri Krishna accepted 16,108 wives, and until the time he was in Vrindavan, he had his conjugal affairs with the gopis of Vrindavan. Now, second interesting thing, does the Dwarkavasis do not know Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Why are they bringing offering for Krishna? What can you really bring? Does Krishna need anything? That's the question here. So first question, because we cannot interact, so I cannot take any input from all of you today. So I'll give an answer. Why did Krishna got married to 16,008 wives, or Krishna having a relationship with Vraj gopis, etc., etc., is in itself is a controversial subject matter. Oftentimes is being discussed or raised by many ignorant people about the nature of the Lord. I'll not go into the whole storyline of it, but I'll just make one simple philosophical point. Krishna is declared in the scriptures as Purna Purushottam Bhagavan, right? He is the Purna Bhagavan. He is the Supreme Personality Godhead. And that Supreme Personality Godhead, Bhagavad Gita says, Aham Bija Prataha Pitaha. I am the seed-giving father. So yes, you and I are born from one seed which was sowed by your and my father. And our mothers gave us a birth. That is an immediate cause. What is the remote cause of our birth? Karma. And what is an ultimate cause of our birth? Aham bija prataha pita. Ultimate cause of birth is, or manifestation is, Mamayvamso jivaloka jibhuta sanatana. So there is an immediate cause, remote cause, and ultimate cause. Immediate cause is our father and mother. Remote cause, our own karma. And the ultimate cause is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So everything and everyone is a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. So Supreme Lord Shri Krishna was not dancing with someone else's property. If he was dancing in Rasila, they were his part and parcel. Lord Shri Krishna getting married to 16,100 queens. Prabhupada said, what is the problem? Krishna got married to 16,100 queens. Krishna can get married to 16 trillion queens. Still that will be insufficient because everything belongs to Krishna. So, Jiva is an energy of the Lord. And Lord Shri Krishna having a relationship with his own energy by no means violates even the moral conduct of this world. So that's the thing. Now, second thing was Atmaram. If he is Atmaram, self-sufficient, then why does he have to have a relationship? Now you have to understand, Krishna is interacting with his own expansion, right? We are also expansion of Lord Shri Krishna because we are his part and parcel who are manifested from him. So Krishna is not having relationship with something which has come outside of Krishna. Krishna is having relationship or is enjoying with himself because we are also his partner. You're getting this point? Mamayavamso jiva loka jiva bhuta sanatana. We are his part and parcel. So that way, Krishna is still Atmaramam. Why make offerings? Prabhupada writes something interesting about offerings in the purport. What was the need for presentation? For presentation. So let's see, it comes in the here. So it looks like I have to read again, so I read out. Therefore, any presentation, however valuable it may be, is not needed by Krishna. But still, because he is the well-wisher for one and all, he accepts from everyone everything that is offered to him in pure devotional service. It is not that he is in want of such things, because the things are themselves generated from his energy. The comparison is made herein that making offering to the Lord is something like offering a lamp in the worship of the sun god, or offering the water of Ganges back to the Ganges. Anything fiery or fiery and illuminating is but an emanation of the energy of the sun. And yet, to worship the sun god, it is necessary to offer him a lamp. In the worship of the sun, there is some sort of demand made by the worshipper. But in the case of devotional service of the Lord, there is no question of demand from either side. It is all a sign of pure love and affection between the Lord and the devotee. So when the devotees saw the Lord coming, it was just a natural reciprocation for them to carry some gifts for the Lord. Not that the Lord needed it, not that the Lord demanded it, nothing like that. Just like in the worship of Ganges, we worship on the Ganges by pouring the water of Ganges back to the Mother Ganges. That's the point here. And now text number 6, where the absolute nature of the Lord is being highlighted by Sutta Goswami. Where Sutta Goswami says not only Lord is Atma Rama, but Lord is also absolute. He describes citizens speaking to the Lord Shri Krishna. The citizen said, "Oh my dear Lord Krishna, you are worshipped by all demigods like Brahma, the 4 Kumaras, even the king of heaven Indra. You are the ultimate rest for those who are really aspiring to achieve the highest benefit of life. You are the supreme transcendental Lord, and inevitable time cannot exert its influence upon you." I know I'm going in some details here, but don't worry. Later on section, I'll quickly give you overview. Now, this is something interesting here. You are being worshipped by everyone, and you are the shelter of everyone, and you are the transcendental Lord, and beyond the time. These are the 4 things the residents of Dwarka describe about the Lord. Let's briefly discuss about Mayavadis versus Vaishnavas. Mayavadis often raise 3 points. First, they say Krishna is like us. Krishna and I are non-different. Just like when His Holiness Jayapataka Maharaj had gone to Jagannath Puri on behalf of Srila Prabhupada to meet with the chief of the Shankara Matha there, and to complain that why the Pandas here are not allowing Srila Prabhupada's Western disciples. They are part of the Vedic culture now. So when Maharaj went to this, the respected personality of the Shankara Matha, so when he heard the whole situation, he said, "Oh, what's the problem? Haven't you seen Lord Jagannath?" So Jayapataka Maharaj said, "No, I haven't seen, because even I am not allowed, because I am from West." So then the head of the Shankara Matha said, "Well, you are seeing Jagannath. Jagannath is sitting in front of you." And then Maharaj understood that he is a Mayavadi. So he is saying that Jagannath sitting inside the temple is I and Jagannath is not different. And you and Jagannath are also not different. So Mayavadi says Krishna is like us, the Lord is like us. And the second point they say, everyone is God. So let's counter argue these 2 points which they make. Ram is like us, Krishna is like us, and every living entity is Lord. They are the one who take out the term of who created this terminology of Daridra Narayan that Prabhupada mentions in various purposes. So 3 things by which you can counter argue. First thing, they say Brahman is non-dual. In fact, scriptures also say Brahman is non-dual. Non-dual means, where does the duality exist? If I ask you a question, what is duality? Duality means happiness, distress, birth and death. Where does the duality exist? Material world. Brahman is part of material world? No. So it is non-dual. You understood the technology term? A technical term, non-dual? So it's non-dual. So question comes, which even the Mayavadis recognize Brahman is non-dual. If Brahman is non-dual, and Brahman is the source of everything, because Aham Brahmasmi. I am that. That's what they say, right? So if Brahman is the source of everything, then from where did material world and Maya came? Because material world is different from us, because they say Jagan Mithya, material world is non-existence, is not reality. So from where did the material world came? And then from where did Maya came? So Maya comprises of three modes of material nature, right? Goodness, passion, ignorance. So when you ask them, who is Krishna, who is Rama? So they say, it is Brahman. When Brahman interacts with goodness, then Bhagavan is created, like Rama, Krishna, etc. When that same Brahman interacts with passion, then Jivatmas are created. And then when that same Brahman interacts with ignorance, then material world is created. So how is material world created according to Mayavadis? When Brahman interacts with ignorance. How we are created? When Brahman interacts with passion. How does the Lord, like this, personality like Rama, Krishna are created? When Brahman interacts with goodness. Fine. Now Brahman is non-dual. Brahman cannot create anything else unless it comes in contact with something else. So therefore they bring modes of material nature. So the question is, from where did the modes of material nature came? Yes or no? It's a simple question. Just like the Big Bang theory says there was a space and there was an infinite temperature, pressure, and the explosion happened. So the very fundamental question to them is, from where did the space came? From where did the point came? From where did the infinite temperature came? So even Mayavadi theory, if you understand, you can understand that there is a God in action. So that's the point here. How we can counter argue Mayavadis. Let's go to text number 7, which is a very important text, which the Dwarkavasis are speaking, and they say, Bhavayanasvam bhavanvashva bhavana Tvameva matha suhratpati pita Tvam sadguruna paramam cha devatam Yasyānuvritya kritino bhabhuvima. In essence, they are saying, one who follows the Lord, their life becomes all successful. In other words, following you give all success. So this verse, text number 7, emphasizes, just like Prabhupada says in the first few lines of the purport, the personality of Godhead, being the creator of the universe, has his all good plans for the good of all good living beings, has good plans for the good of all good living beings. Prabhupada, interestingly, I mentioned the word good. The good living beings are advised by the Lord to follow his good advice. And by doing so, they become successful in all spheres of life. So what is a success formula? If somebody asks you, what is a success formula? उसको सक्सेस फॉर्मूला बताओ क्या है, अभी चर्चा चल रहा है. सक्सेस फॉर्मूला इज टू फॉलो द एडवाइस ऑफ द लॉर्ड. बट Bhishma Pitamaha said, when we discussed the 9th chapter, Nahi asya karichid rajan puman ved vidisitam. Nobody can understand what is Lord's plan. And you all are saying, if you follow the plan of the Lord, your life will be successful. And Bhishma Pitamaha says, nobody can understand the plan of the Lord. So do you find a dichotomy here? Dichotomy means, contrary things here. So how do you reconcile this contrary thing? Any thoughts? Those of you who are online, maybe they can type in. How would you reconcile this contradiction? Bhishma Pitama, he is a Mahajan, not caste Mahajan, a devotee Mahajan. He is 12 Mahajans by Mahajan. He is saying nobody can understand the plan of the Lord. And here it is mentioned, if somebody follows the plan of the Lord, then his life becomes successful. So how can we follow the plan of the Lord when we cannot understand the plan of the Lord? What's the answer? Please go to the chapter 11 of Bhagavad Gita, not now, later on. 43, 44th verse. Nimitta matram bhavasavya sachin. Please read out the purpose of that. The answer is given there. It's a homework. I'll not give the answer, alright? And in case any one of you find out during the course of a discussion, you can post it as a message on the chat box. Alright, so let's move forward. Text number 8, where they say, my dear Lord, it is our good luck that we have again today have come under your protection. And like that, they glorify the Lord that we have got the opportunity to see the most beautiful face in this creation, to receive a benediction of your smiling face and affectionate glances like that. And then text number 9, very interesting, where the Dwarkavasis are saying, "O lotus-eyed Lord, whenever you go away to Mathura, Vrindavan, or Hastinapur to meet your friends and relatives, every moment of your absence seems like millions of years. O infallible one, at that time our eyes becomes useless as if bereft of the sun." So, let me ask this question to all of you. When Krishna left Vrindavan, did he ever went back to Vrindavan? You can answer yes or no. Yes or no? What do you think about it? When Krishna left, he was almost 10 years, 11 months, close to 11 years, when he went to Mathura upon the invitation of Kamsa. Did Krishna ever went back to Vrindavan? How many of you say yes? Raise your hands. How many of you say no? Don't raise your hand. So all of you say Krishna did not went back to Vrindavan? Okay. So let me ask, how many of you say Krishna did not went back to Vrindavan again? Raise your hands. बाकी का क्या स्थिति है? Oh, acha, there is not knowing also option. Okay, okay. So how many people you don't know about it? Okay, that's the situation here. So, but if you see this verse actually gives the evidence that Krishna went to Vrindavan. Yes or no? Dwarkavasis is saying, "My dear Lord, whenever you go to Mathura, Vrindavan, or Hastinapur to meet your friends, relative," so which means when Krishna had come to Dwarka, he indeed had visited Vrindavan. So let me give you a very quick synopsis of Krishna's life here. So Lord Shri Krishna concluded his journey or his pastimes in this world when he was 125-year-old. When he was 125-year-old. Yudhishthira Maharaj ruled for 36 years. Right? Yudhishthira Maharaj ruled for 36 years. And when Lord Shri Krishna departed, Yudhishthira also departed, which happened back to back. So now if you subtract 36 years from 125 years, it becomes 89 years of Lord Shri Krishna's life. Yudhishthira Maharaj began to rule after war, which means Krishna was 89 years old when the war of Mahabharata happened. Making sense? Now, war of Mahabharata happened after how many years? 13 years of Vanvas, right? 12 years of Vanvas and 1 year of Agyatvas. And prior to 13 years of Vanvas, what had happened? Dice game, right? Because of that, they went to Vanvas. The dice game was a reaction to what? A Rajasviya Yagya, where seeing the wealth and opulence of Yudhishthira Maharaj, Duryodhana had become greatly envious, because of which he wanted to have a dice game. So Rajasviya Yagya happened at least 13.5 years prior to the war. So you subtract 89 to 13.5, which makes around 75 years was the age of Krishna when Krishna attended the Rajasviya Yagya at Khandavaprasth or Indraprasth. So it is mentioned by Jiva Goswami, at that time when Lord Shri Krishna had gone to attend this Rajasviya Yagya with Yudhishthira Maharaj, when Krishna was around 75 years old, before returning to Dwarka, Krishna only once and for the last time had gone to Vrindavan. And that is the time when Krishna went to Vrindavan. Vrindavan residents, all of them, Krishna had sent them back to Goloka Vrindavan. Now, if you shake up your memory, whatever you have read or heard, you would not find any pastime after this. You find one pastime of gopis meeting with Krishna at Hastinapur, at Kurukshetra. But that was an incident before the Rajasviya Yagya, where the residents of Vrindavan, particularly gopis, had come to Kurukshetra. Is there any incident that comes after that? So when Krishna was 75 years old, the pastimes of Nanda Maharaj, Yashoda Mai, all the gopis, Srimati Radharani, everything was concluded and they all went to Vrindavan. Therefore, Krishna never again went to Vrindavan like that. So that's a brief about. And up to and then you can keep on going on the back in the life of the Lord. So that's about this. So this makes this gives an evidence that Krishna went to Vrindavan. All right, and then text number 10, where 10 and 11 they say, "My dear Lord, if you live abroad all the time, then we cannot look at your attractive face, whose satisfied smiles vanquish all our sufferings. How can we exist without your presence?" Upon hearing their speeches, the Lord, who is very kind to the citizens and devotees, entered the city of Dwarka and acknowledged all the greetings by casting his transcendental glance all over them. With this, the first section of this chapter gets over, where I have definitely spent more time, but I'll be quicker now. Let's go back to the presentation. I hope presentation is visible. So Dwarkavasis received Krishna, and we saw this particular verse where they glorified how whoever follows the plan of the Lord is successful. And before we move forward, I would like to quickly highlight the key lessons that we learned in this particular first 10 verses. The very first lesson that we learned, whenever matter comes in contact with the Lord, becomes spiritualized. And the example was conch becoming reddened by the lips of the Lord. Similarly, when a living entity takes to the spiritual culture, he becomes spiritualized gradually. Second, holy names eradicates all fear. So when they heard the conch, when the residents of Dwarka heard the conch, the sound of the conch of Krishna, they became pacified and freed from all the fear. So similarly, we can connect with the Lord by chanting the holy names of the Lord. Third, we saw how Lord is Atmaram. I gave you an example of Aham Bija Pratapita and Mamai Vamsu Jivaloka Jivbhuta Sanatana. Fourth, we discussed about why devotees make offering to Lord when he is Atmaram. Lord doesn't need offering, but it's just a natural reciprocation of devotee towards the Lord. Fifth, we talked about Mayavadis versus Vaishnavas in text number 6. Ahead, what you see is the text number in which we have discussed that. Mayavadis make two inferences. Krishna is like us, and we all are gods. And then they say when Brahman interacts with goodness, passion, ignorance, then God, Jiva, and material nature gets manifested. So the question that we raise is, if that's the case and Brahman is non-dual, absolute, then from where does the modes of material nature came? Because everything else that has manifested depends on the interaction between the Brahman and the modes of material nature, for which they don't have an answer. Then the sixth lesson that we learned was we should always follow the plan of the Lord. But how do we know the plan of the Lord? That is an answer. That's homework for you. I have given you the references from Bhagavad Gita for that. And finally, text number 10 discusses the attractive influence of Lord's beauty. Please mark the purport for you to read. It's a very beautiful purport where Prabhupada highlights about how he glorifies Lord Shri Krishna's beauty. So we didn't have time, so we didn't read that purport. Now, from verse number 11 to 15, Dwarka city is described. How the city of Dwarka welcomed the Lord. So let's quickly take a look at it, and then we'll move forward to the next this thing. Text number 12. The city of Dwarkapuri was filled with the opulences of all seasons. Everywhere there were hermitages, orchards, flower gardens, parks, and reservoirs of water breeding lotus flowers. Please mark this purport as one of the golden purports, the 10th purport as well as the 12th purport. Very, very important purport, where Prabhupada talks about two very important things. First, perfection of human civilization. And second, Prabhupada talks about the advancement of human civilization. I'll tell you in brief what it is, and you can read out yourself in detail. So, perfection of human civilization is achieved by utilizing the gifts of the nature as it is, which means to live our life, to live a happy life. Prabhupada says we don't have to depend on the mills and the factories. This is an artificial way of living. Just a simple example, not going into many details of it. If we say that this 21st century we have made a lot of advancement, and that advancement has improved our well-being and have improved our living culture, then my question to all of you is, today for enjoying life, people go to pubs and bars, people go to theaters, people go to theme parks, adventure parks, and whatnot. 100 years prior, none of these existed, right? There were no cinemas, there were no theme parks. So are you saying that 100 years before, the happiness index was non-existing. People were morose. People were committing suicide because they didn't have any entertainment. Or do you think, as you know of the world around you, how many of you agree or are aware that the suicide rates have increased exponentially today than before? How many of you know this thing? Yes or no? So, what is this point of the facilities of this world are giving us a better way of living? Second thing, how many of you would say that the previous generations were far much more happy and satisfied than the current generations? Yes or no? Therefore, Prabhupada writes, perfection of human civilization is to be with the nature, live with the nature, and use the nature as it is, and not to depend on artificial living. You can read out more in details yourself. Second point, advancement of civilization, because that's what we are doing, advancement. So what is advancement civilization? Prabhupada again makes a point. This needs to be shared screen. Advancement of civilization is estimated not on the growth of mills and factories, which destroys our instincts of the human being, but advancement of civilization depends on developing the potent spiritual instincts of human being and giving them a chance to go back to Godhead. So if I ask you a question, if ISKCON wasn't there, advancement of human society is to create an opportunity for maximum people to go back to Godhead. If ISKCON wasn't there, would we really call this society to be advancing or totally degrading? Today's society, all in all, except for the ISKCON fellows and some other, those who are connected with paramparas, largely they all are walking into the hellish condition of life. That's the point Prabhupada makes. Development of factories and mills is ugra karma, which destroys our finer sentiments of human beings. Prabhupada doesn't mention here, but I'll make a third point here. What is economic development? Prabhupada mentioned this point in different purports. Economic development does not again depends on how much raise you get in your job or how many factories or companies you open. Prabhupada says economic development entirely depends on two things: farming and taking care of cows. When Duryodhana had planned to attack the Magad king, if I'm correct, not Magad king, the Uttara's father, Virat. When he had decided to attack Virat, what did they do? They captured all the cattle of Virat. Because the cattle of Virat was captured, therefore Virat got into a war with Kauravas. So cattle, taking care of cattle and agriculture is what makes us economically sustainable, like that. So that's the discussion on this. Then text number 13 talks about how beautifully everything was decorated. The city gateway, the house and doors, the arches, everything was cleaned and decorated with plantain trees, mango leaves. Everything was painted, and the highways, subways, lanes, and markets. Text number 14. Slides are being shown, right? The highways, subways, lanes, markets, everything. Every marketplace was cleansed properly, and they were moistened with scented waters, like that. The fruits, flowers, and broken seeds were thrown at all over the place. Text number 15, situation at every house. In each and every door of the residential houses, auspicious things like yogurt, unbroken fruit, sugar cane, and full water pots with articles for worship, along with incense and candles, were all displayed. So text number 14 to 15 teaches us about guest reception. So guest reception again is a subject in itself. Time is limited. I'll make one or two quick points. Here the guest reception has been described when Lord was to be welcomed to Dwarka, how they cleaned everything. I remember His Holiness Bhakti Tirth Swami Maharaj, whenever he'll go into the house of any grahastha, and just to see how clean they maintain their household, what he will do, he'll go immediately to the toilet and see how clean is the toilet. He would say the standards, cleanliness standard in the toilet will tell you how cleanliness conscious is that or congregation is. I was once hosting His Holiness Giriraj Maharaj in one of the congregation home, and I was supposed to take care of him back in America those days. So I was given the responsibility of cleaning the whole place, particularly his room, his quarters where he was supposed to stay for a couple of days. So with my ignorance, I thought I have done a perfect job. And I was very proud of myself, thinking that this room looks so neat and clean. There is not even a single speck of a dust. And then His Holiness Giriraj Maharaj entered the room. And when he entered, he looked around, he said, "Oh, looks very neat and clean. Who cleaned?" And very proudly I said, Maharaj, I did it. I said, oh, I was a young man. Oh, young man? He didn't know my name because this was the first time we were meeting. You done a nice job. And then suddenly, unknown to me and to everyone's surprise, we have curtains here, but just like in offices, you have blinders. So many people in the West generally use not curtains but the blinders. Immediately, Maharaj opened the blinders. So blinders are this way. When you open it, other side comes, and immediately you open the blinders. When he opened the blinders, he took his finger and underneath the blinder, he rubbed it like this. And then said, oh, very dirty. I had cleaned everything, but I had not cleaned the blinders. So that's being conscious of cleanliness. And in the 15th purport, Prabhupada writes something very important to make a note for the grahasthas particularly. This is the last line. You can mark it as a golden purport, read out yourself later on. But this is one line I would like to highlight. Without distribution of food, no function is complete. And that is a way of the Vedic culture. So every congregation, just like they had prepared the Aarti plate, they also brought offerings. And when the Lord was passing by, they were distributing prasadam to everyone. They were distributing. So Vedic function, no function can be completed if there is no offering of prasadam. No guest can be said to be satisfied if he has not honored prasadam. So it's a very important part of your hospitality, taking care. To have a guest who comes and leaves your house without honoring prasadam is actually considered to be an offense, which means the guest is not happy. Your invited guest was not happy with your hospitality, therefore he has not eaten. You all would remember, Hindi में श्लोक हुआ कहावत हुआ करती थी, दुश्मन के घर पानी भी नहीं पिया करते, something like that. So somebody comes to your home as a guest and does not honor prasadam, not a good thing. Your sacrifice has failed in one sense actually. Now, moving forward, going back to the slide deck again, I'll be quick in the remaining section now, where more emotions are being discussed. So this is 11 to 15. We saw these two key lessons here: advancement of civilization, and also on the point of the perfection of human civilization. We discussed in verse number 12, and we also talked about the science of guest reception. Now the third section is reception to Lord, and the Lord's reciprocation to that reception from verse number 16 to verse number 22. So I'll give you the summary of it, what it means. So when now the residents were discussed in text number 16, the family members of Krishna are being described, where it is mentioned that how when text number 16 and 17, when Vasudev, Jamba, Akrura, Ugrasen, when they all heard that Krishna has arrived, they all hurried to welcome Krishna. And in the purport, Prabhupada talks about all of these personality. Text number 18, they all hurried on their chariots to receive Krishna on the main gate, like that. And there's a description. And in text number 19, that is something interesting. Text number 19 says that when all the residents, even the royal class were also running to welcome Krishna, in text number 19, along with all of them, there was one more special class of people who were also very eager to welcome Krishna. Who were they? Text number 19. Varamukhya cha shata sho yane taddarshano sukha lasat kundala nirbhata kapula vadanashya. At the same time, many hundreds of well-known prostitutes began to proceed on various vehicles. They're called as society girls. They were all very eager to meet the Lord, and their beautiful faces were decorated with dazzling earrings, which enhanced the beauty of their foreheads. So, two things. Prostitutes in Dwarka, in that age, even at that time, prostitutes were there. So, the meaning of prostitute then and today is very different. The prostitutes were called as society girls, which means those who would come and perform dance. There were public dances were performed. So according to that language, you understand, dash celebrity comes into this category. Got it now? So that's the point. Not that there was a flesh trade. It was not about that. So Prabhupada mentioned the purport. Just like a prison house is there, Similarly, this is also there in every society, because there would be some men who would be always a little more lusty, and they would always want to go and explore and venture out of their marital relationship for them, so that they do not disturb the social structure and do not destroy the chastity of the young girls, do not cause any trouble for them. This was a system of prostitute. Another key point to be discussed here is bhakti is independent of what you do. Bhakti is dependent only on bhakti. So it's not that prostitute, which is a low class profession, a degraded profession, a life, a sinful life, they could not get access to bhakti. Even they had bhakti and devotion to Lord, and they also, with all eagerness, ran to welcome Krishna, like that. And so you can read out the purport for yourself. Prabhupada mentioned more about the need for prostitutes. Text number 20, and then there were all kind of performers who also joined to welcome Lord Shri Krishna. Expert dramatists, text number 20, artists, dancers, singers, historians, genealogists, learned speakers, all gave their respective contributions. Like that, everyone came forward to welcome them. So again, a golden purport, you can mark and read it, where different classes of people are being described and what was their service contribution. You'll get to learn something more about Vedic culture. And text number 21, Lord's reciprocation in verse number 21 and 22. So when Lord Shri Krishna approached all the residents, it is said he offered them respect accordingly. Approached them, offered due honor and respect to each and every one of the friends, relatives, citizens who came to receive and welcome him. Just the way they reciprocated to Krishna, Krishna also reciprocated. Text number 22, the Almighty Lord greeted everyone present by bowing his head and exchanging greetings, embracing, shaking hands, looking with smiles, giving assurances and awarding benedictions, even to the lowest in rank. This is something very, very beautiful verse, but we can't go so much in details of it right now. But you can read the purport. The point is, we are a personal, organization or spiritual forum where there is a personal dealings with each other. Here, Lord Shri Krishna reciprocated to every individual, reciprocated, just like disciples of Srila Prabhupada would often mention. Even if there are 500 devotees, every devotee would fall in the presence of Prabhupada as if Prabhupada is talking to him personally, reciprocating to him. And that's how Lord Shri Krishna, was reciprocating and dealing with everyone. So going back to the slide deck again, coming to the conclusion of our discussion for today. So quick lessons from this section, section 22. Anyone can practice bhakti, like prostitutes can take it. Cinema, dramatic performances, Prabhupada writes, means reliving Lord's pastimes. So they were all performing Lord's pastimes. The fourth section is Lord enters the city and passes through various routes, 23 to 27. So here there is a brief discussion about it. When Lord Shri Krishna now entered the Dwarka. So it is again mentioned in text number 24, just like mentioned in the previous chapter, when Krishna entered. When Krishna was departing from Hastinapur, the ladies went on the rooftop. Similarly, now when Krishna entered Dwarka, once again ladies all went onto the rooftop. So text number 24, Prabhupada again highlights the dealings of women according to Vedic culture. Simple point is, there was no free mixing. It's not that the man and woman came and stood together, body to body, each other in a packed area, and then the Lord was entering there. No. There was a proper segregation. If the man is on one side, the ladies would not go there. That's how Prabhupada explains here. That was the culture. And text number 25 is a very, very beautiful text. It is mentioned, Nityam nirakshamananam yadapi dwarakaukasam na vitripantihi drasha shriyodhamangamachutam. The inhabitants of Dwarka were actually regularly accustomed to see the reservoir of all beauty, Lord Shri Krishna. Yet, when Lord Shri Krishna came back after a few months of journey, they all were looking at Krishna as if they have never seen Krishna before. So, insatiable is the beauty of Lord Shri Krishna. Very, very beautiful point. Prabhupada mentioned the purport. You can take a look at it. Text number 26 onwards, the beauty of Lord is described. I will just read out what Prabhupada writes. The Lord's chest is a abode of goddess of fortune, and his moon-like face is a drinking vessel of eyes, which hanker after all that is beautiful. His arms are the resting places for the administered demigods, and his lotus feet are the refuge of pure devotees who never talk or sing of any subject except his lordship. 26, 27, please mark the purpose, very, very beautiful purpose, and it describes the beauty of the Lord. And now in text number 27, how Lord enters the Dwarka is mentioned. When he was passing through the public road of Dwarka, his head was protected from the sunshine by a white umbrella. White feather fans moved in semicircles and showers of flowers fell upon the road. All the ladies were standing on the rooftop. They were doing the flower abhishek of the Lord. His yellow garments and garlands of flowers made it appear as if a dark cloud was surrounded simultaneously by the sun, which means the canopy, the moon, the yak tail, the lightning refers to the flowers abhishek, and rainbows like that. A very beautiful knowledge is given. Now going back to the slide deck, this completes the fourth section when Lord entered and walked through the various routes. So we discussed briefly about dealings of women, and at text number 25, how Lord's beauty is insatiable. Prabhupada writes in the purport about spiritual beauty versus material beauty. Although they were used to seeing Lord, Lord have lived in Dwarka after Mathura, major part of his life was in Dwarka. Every devotee was used to seeing Lord every day. Yet when Lord just came back after a short adventure in Indraprastha, Hastinapur or at Kurukshetra, the devotees were so eager to see the Lord. So Prabhupada writes, this is the nature of the spiritual beauty which always goes on increasing. Just like a very gross example, in any new relationship, when you have a new relationship, there's a lot of excitement, yes or no? And let's say a boy and girl, they're about to get married. You see how joyful they are at the time of getting married. The boy is like, oh, you are like my moon, and I'm like a star for you. The idea is, you are everything for me. Ask the same boy after 1 year of marriage. Yes or no? Things changes. There's nothing wrong with the man and woman here. Both are jivatma. The point is, that's the nature of the material beauty. Material beauty fades, but the spiritual beauty never fades. So whatever is our material attraction, it goes away with time. Getting it? But the spiritual attraction only increases. And finally, the last section, the Lord's dealings in verse number 28 to verse number 35. Let me just give you a synopsis of it. So it is mentioned that one of the last section, actually, there's one small section also. So Mother Devaki, Vasudev, and then the queens of Dwarka, when they saw Lord Shri Krishna, how they all came running. So Krishna was embraced by the mother and the father. The queens wanted to embrace Lord Shri Krishna, but because they could not do it in a public forum, so it is mentioned in text number 29, how they pushed their sons, go and embrace your father. And Prabhupada writes, as the son's body has come from the mother's body, embracing the son is like embracing the wife. So like that, they felt satisfied in their heart, seeing that. And then in verse number 31 to 33, a subject matter to meditate and discuss is about the relationship between the Lord and the Queen is described. How, when they saw the Lord, the queens of Dwarka could not take their eyes off. However, in text number 33, it is mentioned, although all the ladies were so excited, the queens of Dwarka, the wives of Krishna, were so excited to have Lord back, but Lord was unmoved. He was totally detached. Even despite all the amorous looks and the gestures given by the wives, Lord was totally equipoised like that. Text number 33. And text number 24, the same discussion continues in that aspect. So where Sutta Goswami glorifies the Lord actually in 34, that how everything happens by the Lord's will. In text number 35 is mentioned that although the Lord's relationship with his wives may look like a mundane affair, husband-wife relationship, but it was never like that. And then Prabhupada writes in the purport, 35th purport, who were these 16,108 queens who got the privilege to get married by Krishna. Prabhupada describes about their previous life. You can read out. And then comes the final section, Transcendental Character of the Supreme Lord. 36 to 39. Text number 36 mentions, although the queen's beautiful faces and smiles were all spotless and exciting, they could conquer Cupid, but Krishna was unmoved. He was unaffected. The renunciation is being described here. And text number 37, there are fools who consider Krishna to be ordinary like oneself. They don't understand the transcendental nature of the Lord, who is beyond the modes of material nature. And text number 38, which is the last verse of this chapter, where divinity of Krishna is being established. Etad ishanam ishaya prakriti sthopi tad gune na yujyate sadatmaste yatha buddhit tad ashraya. So let me just see if we can all see. Duplicate, correct. Where is the Veda page? So we are on verse number 38. So this is the verse we read just now. Etat Ishanam Ishaya. Translation, this is the divinity of the personality of Godhead. He is not affected by the qualities of material nature, even though he is in contact with them. Similarly, the devotees who have taken shelter of the Lord do not become influenced by the material qualities. Once again, the same point as we started our discussion. Matter becomes purified when it comes in contact with spiritual. So what to speak of coming in contact with the Supreme Lord. And finally, text number 39. Please recite together. Tammenire bala mudaha strena janu vratam raha apramana vido bhartur ishwaram matayo yatha. Translation, the simple and delicate woman truly thought the Lord Krishna, their beloved husband, followed them and was dominated by them. They were unaware of the extent of the glories of their husband, as the atheists are unaware of him as a supreme controller. Every of the wife of Krishna thought, Krishna is my hand-picked husband. Jo bhi bolti hu, karta hai. He follows my order. But Sutta Goswami says, they were just as ignorant as the atheists who do not understand Krishna. Now what does this analogy means? That by the Leela Shakti of the Lord, all the queens had forgotten about the supremacy of the Lord. If they have not forgotten about the supremacy of the Lord, then Dwarka would have turned into Vaikuntha, where the mood of relationship with the Lord would be of Dasya, not Madhurya Rasa. Like that, by the will of the Lord, they had forgotten the nature of the Lord. Therefore, they were thinking, Krishna is my handpicked husband. With that, we come to a conclusion of today's discussion. Once again, excuse us for this extended session because we started late. After this, when chapter ends, now chapter 12, title as Birth of Emperor Parikshit. We'll discuss that next week. Describing the birth of Parikshit, Sutta Goswami went on describing the journey of Lord Shri Krishna. Now Shanakadi Rishi reminds Sutta Goswami about the question about Parikshit Maharaj. And now what happened with Parikshit birth, that will be discussed 12th chapter onwards. To conclude our discussion for today, let's read out one quotation from Prabhupada. This is from 11th chapter, verse number 39, the last verse, purport. Prabhupada writes, in other words, even the personal associates of the Lord do not know him perfectly well. So what do the thesis writers, those who do research, or mental speculators know about the transcendental glories of the Lord? The mental speculators present different theses as to his becoming the cause of the creation, the ingredient of the creation, of the material and efficient causes of the creation, etc. But all of this is but a partial knowledge. Factually, they are as ignorant as the common man. The Lord can be known by the mercy of the Lord only, and by no other means. But since the dealings of the Lord with his wives are based on pure transcendental love and devotion, the wives are all on the transcendental plane without material contamination. Therefore, they were put under this illusion as Krishna is their handpicked husband. This was done by the internal energy of the Lord, Antaranga Shakti. And we are also under illusion. Our illusion is not same as the illusion of the Dwarka queens. Our illusion is because of external energy, where we think we are the controller and the God. But that was not the situation with the queens of Dwarka. With that, thank you all for joining us today. And yes, once again, we were late, so kindly excuse us for that. We'll meet next week, continue our discussion. So unfortunately, we will not be able to take any questions if I'm correct. So we'll end here for today. And if there would be any questions, we'll do that next time. Or else you can post your question on the chat box and I shall try to answer later on today. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki, Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Once again, thank you all for joining us today. Hare Krishna. We'll have the Hindi session today evening at 7 o'clock. In case somebody who missed it today morning would like to attend in the evening.